Welcome to Team Building and Effective Meetings. During this session we'll cover why teams and team building, the power of an introduction, understanding the stages of team formation, and effective meetings. And I'm Jim Canning, and I'm an academic development tutor. So why teams? At university you work in many teams. Why is that? The simple fact is, employers use teams. Employers need effective team members and effective team leaders, and in particular, time-aware team members. So it makes a lot of sense to develop your team skills while you're at university. Team building. Now, there's no doubt it can be daunting being put into a team of total strangers with the expectation that you'll work together. It might be even more challenging to form a team online only, to have team meetings online, to have to work together and report back in progress, or not, online. Can a team be a team if they never physically meet? Yes, absolutely. If it's one thing we've learned from the pandemic, yes, they can. When you're building a team, where do you start? Do you just place a group of strangers together physically or virtually and call them a team? Not quite. The first thing you have to do is break the ice. An icebreaker. Start with introductions. Help strangers become people with names and interests, and that includes you. Now, do you remember that introduction I gave back at the start? I'm Jim Canning, academic development tutor. Could that have been better to help you decide whether I'm worth listening to or not? To get a sense of me as a person? Why am I the one giving you a talk on team building? How do you know that I know? Have I just read out a book? With all that in mind, let me start again. I'm Jim Canning, 15 years at GCU. Prior to that, I was 32 years in industry, from engineering technician to senior management. I've got an engineering, manufacturing and management background across a range of industries, from shipbuilding to semiconductor manufacture. I once worked in the shipyards here, Scott, Lithgow and Greenock. Yes, I am that old, probably was black and white back then. Not much left there now, there's a McDonald's and a marina. Semiconductor industry, I worked in the National Semiconductor for 22 years. The company's still there and it's currently called Diodes Incorporated. I worked in James Watt College and Ayr College as a lecturer. And then I came to Glasgow Caledonian University as an academic development tutor. My hobbies are motorcycling, that's my second last motorbike. Another hobby is archery. That contraption on my leg is because I got knocked off my second last motorbike. I got a broken leg. That was the bike I replaced it with. Hobby? Our dog's hobbies? Not sure. Newest member of the family is my wee Springer Spaniel, Isla. Keeps me on my toes. And my most recent hobby is drone photography. Do a bit of video work as well, but photography is my thing. And I work in the School of Computing, Engineering and Built Environment Learning Development Centre as an academic development tutor. And the LDC is staffed by a team of experienced academic development tutors with particular areas of expertise and skills. We provide students with academic support to help them maximise their potential in areas such as academic writing, English for academic purposes, mathematics, ICT and general study skills. We want to help you to meet your aspirations and to become effective, independent, lifelong learners. So, what just happened? Was that a better introduction? Was some of what I shared interesting? Was my language positive? Was my voice friendly? Do I seem more approachable? Right now, do you feel like you know more about me as a person? And more about my team and what we do? Hopefully the answer is yes, because that's the power of an introduction. A brief, friendly introduction can turn total strangers into nodding acquaintances. Maybe you've only met them once, but you got to know each other well enough that when you walk down the corridor in opposite directions, you give each other a wee nod. Or you can turn into colleagues or even friends. Now this is important. Sharing a little personal information can bring rewards and break down barriers. I shared with you what I felt comfortable sharing with you. You learned a little more about me than you did initially. But when you're sharing your personal information with people, don't overdo it. Okay? Share a little personal information, a level that's safe for you. But even sharing just a little bit can bring those rewards and break down barriers. What I would also say is when you're listening to someone else, control the urge to get in with a better story. So when someone's talking to you, introducing themselves to you, pay attention. Effective listening is listening to things with the same ratio of ears that you have to mouth. So you get 2 ears, 1 mouth. There's a clue there. Listen twice as much as you talk. We all know the urge to someone starts to tell a joke, and rather than listening to the joke properly, what you're actually doing is you're searching for a better joke to tell. So control that urge. Listen to someone when they're talking to you. Now, a useful icebreaker I've used quite a lot myself is a very simple one of, if you have a team, you're new, you got together, form into random pairs, and then each pair can take some time together and basically share their preferred name. And by that I mean, for example, my proper name is James, but I've always been called Jim by my family, and that's a name I'm very comfortable with. And then get the person to share 2 interesting things about themselves, and you both take turns for that. And then, once everyone's done that across the whole group, each pair can take in turn where one of you stands up and introduces the other and tells the group a little bit about them. So the 2 interesting things. And the reason I'm suggesting that is standing up in front of a group to introduce yourself can raise your anxiety levels if you're not comfortable with that sort of thing. However, standing up in front of a group to introduce someone else removes that pressure, takes it away from you. So a useful icebreaker. That way you all get to know the name you preferred to be used and a couple of interesting things about each other. And it doesn't take very long at all. Okay, so let's move on. I want to talk about the stages of team formation. Way back in 1965, a chap called Bruce Tuckman developed a model of team formation, the stages of it. It's used to describe the path that teams can take on their way to high performance. And the first stage is forming. The second is storming. The third is norming. The fourth is performing. And the fifth and final stage is adjourning. And it's actually sometimes called mourning. So let's go into the first one, forming. In this stage, most team members are positive and polite. Some are anxious as they haven't fully understood what work the team will do. Others are simply excited about the task ahead. Now, if there's a leader, the leader tends to play a dominant role at this stage because team members' roles and responsibilities are not yet clear. And this stage can last for some time as people start to work together and as they make an effort to get to know their new colleagues. The next stage is storming. The team moves into the storming phase where people start to push against the boundaries established in the forming stage. This is the stage where many teams fail. Storming often starts where there is a conflict between team members' natural working styles. You'll have the folk who are just desperate to get something done and to kind of do it right now thing. And you get other people who want to study it, reflect on it, work on the detail. And that kind of thing initially can clash because one can look like reckless idiots for trying to charge in without thinking it through, and the ones who want to do the detail can seem very pedantic to the people who want to get things done yesterday. So people may work in different ways for all sorts of reasons, but if differing working styles cause unforeseen problems, they may become frustrated and may become angry. Storming can also happen in other situations. For example, team members may challenge a leader's authority. They may think they should be in charge. Or they do a bit of politics and they jockey for position, they want to change the roles. or if the leader of the team has not defined clearly how the team will work, people may feel overwhelmed by their workload, or they could be uncomfortable with the approach being used. Some may question the worth of the team's goal, and they may resist taking on tasks. What then happens is team members who actually stick with the task at hand may experience stress because they'll see other people not pulling their own weight and they feel as though they're getting overwhelmed. In this particular case, if they don't have the support of established processes or strong relationships with their colleagues, they can experience stress. Then we get to the norming stage. Gradually the team moves into the norming stage. This is when people start to resolve their differences. They start to appreciate colleagues' strengths and respect the authority of the leader. When team members know one another better, they may socialise together, and they are able to ask one another for help and provide constructive feedback. The key word's constructive. Constructive feedback. People develop a stronger commitment to the team goal, and they start to see good progress towards it. There is often a prolonged overlap between storming and norming. It's a bit like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, because as new tasks come up, the team may lapse back into behaviour from the storming stage. Then you move into performing. The team reaches the performing stage when hard work leads without friction to the achievement of the team's goals. The structures and processes were set up to support this well. The leader can delegate much of the work and concentrate on developing team members, so team members are trusted to do what they've been asked to do. It feels easy to be part of the team at this stage, and people who join or leave won't disrupt performance. However, all good things must come to an end. We have adjourning, sometimes known as mourning. Many teams will reach this stage eventually. For example, project teams exist only for a fixed period. They exist until the project is completed, and then that team is disbanded. You also get cases where the permanent teams may be disbanded through organisational restructuring, otherwise known as redundancy. Now, team members who like routine, who have developed close working relationships with colleagues, may find this stage difficult, particularly if their future now looks uncertain. Okay, so that was Bruce Tuckman's model, the 5 stages: forming, storming, norming, performing, adjourning. So when you're in a team, you perhaps will feel you know enough now, you maybe recognise what's happening and it won't concern you because you know what comes next if you stick with it. So what we covered so far: why teams, team building, the power of an introduction, and understanding the stages of team formation. So what now? Well, effective meetings. So in this section, why am I even bringing up meetings? Well, the simple fact is, if you're in a team, you're going to have to go to team meetings. So we're going to cover why learn about meetings. We're going to cover ineffective meetings, effective meetings, the most important question, and I'll offer you a template for effective meetings. Outcome agenda, rules and roles, and I'll give you a summary of that. Now, the techniques I'm talking about in here are from real world experience. When I worked in National Semiconductor, our meetings were incredibly ineffective, and it was bad enough that the company brought in consultants from America, and we worked with them and they offered us this template. When I say offered, we were told to do it. And initially there was a wee bit of resistance because you like's been told what to do, but we followed it and we tried it, and we were quite pleasantly surprised to find it genuinely works. It's a very simple template, but it's very, very powerful. So let's get started. Why learn about meetings? There's no escape from them in the real world of business and industry. You'll be involved in teamwork all the way through your time at university. You will need to have team meetings to make progress. Now, meetings are rarely a pleasure, but with a little planning they can be relatively painless and effective. So what's an ineffective meeting look like? You ever come out of a meeting thinking, that's a few hours of my life I'll never get back? Or, what was the point of that? Even better, what excuse can I come up with to miss the next one? So let's take a few moments to list the things that contribute to an ineffective meeting. Ineffective meetings are disorganised. There's no structure to the meetings. There's no clear purpose why there's a meeting there in the first place. There's no agenda. There's unpleasant surprises. You turn up for the meeting and next thing you know a name's getting called and it's your name you're presenting. Well, who told you? You surprise. There's no schedule, so the meeting can drag on and on and on. There's people there who are baffled why they're there. They can't contribute. There's no records taking of any decisions. And worse still, there's no decisions actually taken. And then you get the people in the meetings who just love the sound of their own voice. Talk for Scotland. And the opposite end of the spectrum, the people who might have something important to say, but won't or can't. From my experience, the quiet ones are the ones with the good ideas. There's no action points taken at the meeting. And there's no sense of achievement at the end. There's very little participation in the meeting either. And it goes off at a tangent, it goes off at a point, goes off the point altogether. It's too long, it's boring, and it's frustrating. And you get people turning up late with no respect for anyone else. So what does an effective meeting look like? There's an agenda published before the meeting. So there's no surprises. Everyone knows what's going to be covered. Everyone knows if they get a slot where they have to present at it. There's a clear purpose for the meeting. You know what's going to come out of the meeting. There's a time schedule so it won't overrun. There's only people that can actually contribute to the meeting are invited. There's a what, who, when, which I'll just go into a bit more detail later. Decisions are made and decisions are agreed by the team. Everyone contributes, even the quiet people. And there's a sense of achievement at the end. The meeting sticks to the point, finishes on time, may well be interesting. And people turn up early, so the meeting starts on time. That's an effective meeting. Now, interesting enough, the most important question to ask is a meeting necessary? So, for example, in the real world, if I've got 20 engineers working for me on £50 an hour, and I take them offline for a 1 hour meeting, that's £1,000 it's cost the company. That's almost £17 per minute. However, if the answer is yes, then some pre-planning will help to make the meeting much more effective. So this is the template. ORS, outcome agenda, rules and roles. So the outcome is, what is the purpose of the meeting? What is the outcome that will be achieved by the end of the meeting? What tangible thing or things will happen as a result of having the meeting? What can you point at to say, that's what we did, that's what we agreed? Or what is the problem the meeting will address? Then you have agenda. A meeting without an agenda is not an effective meeting. In fact, a meeting shouldn't take place unless there is an agenda and it has been circulated to the team prior to the meeting. This gives the team the opportunity to finalise what should be on the agenda. So you get the agenda early, you can look at it, suggest a change, say something be added, something be taken away, and as a team you agree the agenda. And if you know what's going to be discussed, you will be better prepared and be better able to contribute more effectively. The agenda must include how long the meeting will be and how much time will be spent on each item. The agenda should include, as the second last item, an AOCB, short for any other competent business, where items not on the agenda can be brought up. So there's a bit of flexibility built into the meeting, just in case there's something you realise during the meeting that should be discussed. There's a wee window of time kept safe if required. If it's not required, then the meeting gets to finish early. How good's that? And the last item on the agenda is agreeing the time and place of the next meeting, because all the people involved, with potential involved in the next meeting, would be there, and it's easy for people to access their calendars and select a time and place. But remember, that's if another meeting is necessary. The agenda should also include a W cubed, a what, who, when. That's for every action that has to be taken. It's agreed in the meeting. What is the action? It has to be a specific thing, not a woolly general description of what's to be done. and there's got to be agreement on who will be doing the action and when it has to be completed by. Now, the W cube is really powerful. It quickly highlights what action items are completed and also ones falling behind. So as part of the meeting, the W cube will be put up and the action points will be discussed, and very quickly you can see what ones have been completed, what ones are, the deadlines have been missed, and also highlights the people who are performing and the people who are not performing. Now, attending a meeting when you have an action point against your name that you have not achieved is a very humbling experience. I've been there and it happened to me once and it never happened again. It's a quite embarrassing thing when your name comes up and you have to stand up and explain how you hadn't been able to do something. So W cube, very powerful. So here's an example agenda. It's got the date, it's got the room it's going to take place, the time it's going to start at 11, finish at 12. And as you can see, there's items in there. Approve the previous minutes, five minutes at the start. That way the team gets to agree that the minutes are an accurate reflection of what took place at the previous meeting. Then you go through the W cube, the what, who, when, the action points. And then in this case I've got 3 items, 10 minutes each. I've got a 10-minute window at the end for any other competent business, and then a 5-minute window for a discussion over the next meeting. What I would say, if it's a first meeting or new people have joined, then include introductions at the start. For your very, very first meeting, you would have an icebreaker to get to know each other, introductions, all that sort of thing. But on a regular ongoing basis, this is an outline agenda that could well be useful for you. Now let's talk about minute taking. Part of meetings, you have to take minutes, and the minutes should be taken to reflect the meeting. So it's got to be accurate, that what was agreed, record who was in attendance and who sent apologies for non-attendance and who just didn't turn up. The completed minutes must be circulated to the team as soon as possible after the meeting is finished. And approving the minutes of the previous meeting should be the first part of the agenda in each meeting. Now, accurate minutes are very important as they're an audit trail of the decisions taken at a meeting. So further down the road, something goes wrong and it's related to a decision taken earlier. You can track back through the minutes, through the audit trail, find out what point the decision was made, and it would show the reasons why that decision was made. Well, that's very, very useful. Rules. So as a team, it's useful to set up rules for team meetings. There's some very simple examples. Hands up to speak, instead of folk trying to shout over each other. No talking over someone else. If someone's got the floor and they're talking, you stay back and let them do their talking. However, you probably put in a limit on how long they can talk for. So an example here, 1 minute maximum talk time per person. That way there's chances for other people to get a chance to speak as well. I'm sure you can think of many other rules. What you also need to do is agree how many people need to be in attendance for a meeting to proceed, otherwise known as a quorum. So if there was 10 people in a team, you may be looking for at least 75%. Okay, 75% of 10, okay, call it 7. So, but you have to agree. And if a meeting happens, or folk turn up for a meeting and the number of people are underneath that, so there's only 5 people turn up, then the meeting should not go ahead. Because you can't have 5 people potentially going power mad, making all sorts of decisions with half the team missing. So be sensible. What I'd also say as well is that no one person is so important that a meeting can't go ahead because that person can't make it. For example, if the chairperson can't make it, the meeting should still go ahead, but the roles will be temporarily assigned by those that can make it. You'll have the agenda there anyway, so whoever gets the chance to be the chairperson can just follow the agenda. So I've kind of talked about a few roles here. There are 3 main roles in effective meetings: chairperson, clerk and timekeeper. What I would say at university, or even in the real world if you get the chance, you should rotate the roles on a regular basis. So no single person is the chairperson all the way through. Get a chance to get through that experience yourself, to feel yourself in the hot seat. I know myself, when it first happened to me, I was at a meeting, I was just a lowly process engineer, and we were trying out this new stuff, and the meeting I was at was being chaired by the managing director of the whole plant. And before the meeting started, they sat down at the front of the room, his usual chairperson's place, and said, "Oh no, let's change this out. he just looked around the room, spotted me, said, "Right, Jim, come on, up you get." So I can't lie, it was an anxious moment, but there was a process to follow. Up through the agenda, got folk involved, told when the folk had to stop talking, etc. Bit nerve-wracking, won't lie. However, once you'd done it once, it was easy after that. So I would encourage you all to take your chances at doing each of the roles. Right, chairperson. Chairperson leads the meeting, follows the agenda, stops the meeting from being sidetracked, listens out for the timekeeper, allows everyone an opportunity to speak, so you can stop people speaking that have gone too long, and you can encourage the quieter members to contribute. There's the clerk. Records the minutes of the meeting, including the W cubed, circulates them to the team. It's a much more influential role than just a note taker. Timekeeper. Timekeeper keeps an eye on the time for each item on the agenda and flags up when time is almost up. So as it gets towards the end of a 10-minute section, it basically says something like 2-minute warning quietly to the chairperson. However, what I would say is after a couple of meetings and you've all settled down, you can drop the timekeeper role, because a good chairperson can cover the timekeeper role too. So, some tips for running effective meetings. Email an agenda 24 hours in advance. Arrive 5 minutes early. Start and end on time. Come prepared. Bring pen and paper. Share all relevant data. Stay on topic. Be brief and concise. No interrupting. And silence equals agreement. So what do I mean by that last one? Silence equals agreement. Well, if the chairperson calls out at some point, okay, are we all agreed on this particular plan of action? And you're sitting there and you're thinking, I don't agree with it, but you don't say so, then silence equals agreement. What will be recorded in the minutes is the chairperson asked the question and no one come back with a negative response. So you might be sitting there thinking this is a stupid idea, but in the official minutes for the meeting, you agreed with the decision because you didn't speak out. That's what silence equals agreement means. So in weeks gone by, something goes wrong, you can't turn around and say, but I disagreed with that. You just go back and check the minutes, the audit trail. Yes, you did. You didn't dissent. Silence equals agreement. So be aware of that. So we've covered why I learn about meetings, ineffective meetings, effective meetings. The most important question, a template, ORS. And the summary for that is just a reminder is, outcome is the purpose of the meeting. Agenda, what will be discussed with times. Approve previous minutes, W cubed. Any other competent business. Rules, roles, chairperson, clerk, timekeeper. Now, we'll quickly touch on effective meetings online. Everything we've discussed so far counts for online meetings as well. There are a couple of things you need to watch out for. Make sure your microphone's working, because if that's not, you could use the chat window as a backup, but it's far from ideal. If you are using video, if you've got the bandwidth to use video, so it's a video call, place your camera such that your eyes are about 2/3 of the way up the screen. Also, check your background. Unless you've got a virtual background, you can put some nice fancy office thing or a nice view or whatever. If it's an actual real background you're showing, then make sure there's nothing embarrassing in the background, like an old pair of underpants or the room's a mess or whatever. You want to look professional. Know your way around the software, so the hands up option, sharing the screen, static or dynamic, option to take notes, whiteboards, present or collaborate, and if you can, auto captions if you know there's anyone in your team that has hearing difficulties. So remember, effective meeting summary is a meeting necessary. If yes, what's the purpose? Agenda issued before the meeting, what will be discussed with times, approved previous minutes, W cubed, what, who, when, AOCB, any other competent business, date, time and location of next meeting if required, rules, roles, chairperson, clerk, timekeeper. Until you get good enough, you only need the chairperson and the clerk. And rotate the roles. So we've covered why teams and team building, power of introduction, understanding the stages of team formation and effective meetings. You can also download a summary sheet on effective meetings from this Padlet, and the video is going to be posted on the GCU YouTube channel, and the link will be shown in the description section of the video. If you get any questions about this session, feel free to email askldc@gcu.ac.uk. Thank you.